Today I was going to talk about the Limit Break red, green, white commander deck from the Final Fantasy set. The thing down over here on the front says equip weapons, raise your stats past 7 power. So, it comes with a um, deck box with some art front that's specific to this commander deck and also shows you that's a red, green, white commander deck. Um, has some little pop outs with some artwork on, and then some ones on the side that are 1/1 counters. And I don't know if these are supposed to be for the stages of sagas, maybe. The first commander suggestion that it shows is Cloud X Soldier. He's a 4/4 legendary creature. Obviously, it's a commander, so it's a legendary creature. A human soldier mercenary. He costs two mountain, a forest, and a plains. Has haste. When Cloud enters, attach up to one target equipment you control to it. Whenever Cloud attacks, draw a card for each equipped attacking creature you control. Then, if Cloud has power 7 or greater, create two treasure tokens. So that's pretty cool, especially where as a commander it has haste. So, you know, if it doesn't get countered, it attacks the turn it comes in. If it doesn't get blocked, you have quick commander damage. One of the other suggested commanders, Tifa, martial artist. She's a 4/4 legendary creature, a human monk for one, a mountain, a forest, and a plains. So the generic cost of Tifa is one less. She has melee. The reminder text says whenever this creature attacks, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each opponent you attack this combat. So just in a one-on-one commander game, it's only gonna get +1/+1. So it's okay, it helps, but the more opponents you have, the more helpful it is. So if you're in a pod of four and you're attacking three opponents, oh, instead of getting +1/+1, it gets three +1/+1s. Whenever one or more creatures you control with power 7 or greater deal combat to damage to a player, untap all creatures you control. If it's the first combat phase of your turn, there's an additional combat phase after this one. So that's pretty cool, in a pot of um, four. If you happen to attack at all three of your opponents, this 4/4 becomes a 7/7 because of that melee giving 3/1/1 counters. And then if you attack for the first time this turn, it's untapping all your creatures and giving you essentially a second combat stage to attack again. Um, I mean, I would like to think if you have three opponents, someone's going to try to do something to prevent that, or, board wipe, or just do something to throw a monkey wrench in your plan. But I mean, that's pretty cool. Sid, free flyer pilot. It's a 2/2 legendary creature, a human warrior pilot for 1 in the planes. Equipment and vehicle spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Jump. During your turn, Sid has flying. Pay 2 and tap. Return target equipment or vehicle card from your graveyard to your hand. So, at the cost of tapping this guy, 2 mana is a pretty nice way to get back equipment or vehicles. I mean, yeah, vehicles, you have to um, tap some creatures to be able to make the vehicles a creature that's able to attack, but just being able to get stuff back from your graveyard's nice. Cloud's Limit Break. It's an instant for 1 in the planes. Tiered. Choose 1 additional cost. Cross Slash, which is 0. Destroy target tapped creature. Blade Beam costs 1. Destroy any number of target tapped creatures with different controllers. Ominous Slash costs 3 and a planes. Destroy all tapped creatures. So, I mean, 1 in the planes, and then the last ability, Ominous Slash, 3 in the planes. So essentially, 4 and 2 planes. You can destroy all tapped creatures. I mean, given that would be including yours, but in certain scenarios, wiping all of your opponents' creatures out if they're tapped, um, you'd be willing to sacrifice whatever of your creatures. Or, maybe you have something that you can untap your creatures before playing this. Alina Turk Recruit. It's a 1/4 legendary creature, a human assassin for 2 in the planes. When Alina enters, return target non assassin historic card from your graveyard to your hand. The reminder text says artifacts, legendaries, and sagas are historic. Whenever you cast a historic spell, put a 1/1 counter on Alina. Now, where Final Fantasy seems to have a lot of legendary creatures, or at least in the commander decks, um, this seems pretty good because you're, oh, something went to the graveyard. Well, it's a legendary creature. I'm gonna, um, return one of them to my hand to then, replay at another time. Heidegger Shinra Executive. It's a 3/3 legendary creature, a human soldier for 3 in the planes. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature you control gets +X +0 until end of turn, where X is the number of soldiers you control. At the beginning of your end step, create a number of 1/1 white soldier creature tokens equal to the number of opponents who control more creatures than you. So that seems pretty good to potentially get some tokens if your opponents have more creatures than you, and then, on your combat step, you're also buffing one of your guys based on how many soldiers you have. Hella, Tro- Hella Trooper. It's It's a 1/2 creature, a human soldier for 1 in the plains. It has flying. Whenever this creature attacks, another target attacking creature gains flying until end of turn. Equip abilities you activate that target this creature cost 2 less to activate. So, I mean, that's even though its initial base power and toughness is fairly low, it's a 1/2. I mean, I guess I would expect that out of a 2 converted mana cost creature, especially with, all the abilities it has. Flying, being able to give another creature flying, being able to make equipment that's targeting this guy cost 2 less. I mean, it makes sense it would be a lower power toughness. Soldier Military Program. It's an enchantment for 2 in the plains. At the beginning of combat on your turn, choose one. If you control a commander, you may choose both instead. Create a 1/1 white soldier creature token, or put a 1/1 counter on each of up to 2 soldiers you control. So, I mean, that's pretty good, especially considering there's another creature that's making soldier tokens at the end of turn if your opponents have more creatures than you, so you're potentially pumping out tokens to, amass more of an army. Ultimate Magic, Holy. It's an instant for 2 in the plains. Permanents you control gain indestructible until end of turn. If the spell was cast from exile, prevent all damage that would be dealt to you this turn. Foretell, 2 in the plains. The reminder text says, during your turn you may pay 2 and exile this card from your hand face down. Cast it on a later turn for its foretell cost. So, I mean, either way, it's going to be the foretell cost or the this turn cost is 2 in the plains, but if you foretell it, you're also paying an additional 2 to put face down, and later you get additional bonus, I guess, if you will, for playing it from exile for the foretell cost. Avalanche of Sector 7. It's a star 3 legendary creature, a human rebel for 2 in a mountain, has menace. Avalanche of Sector 7's power is equal to the number of artifacts your opponents control. Whenever an opponent activates an ability of an artifact they control, Avalanche of Sector 7 deals 1 damage to that player. So this guy seems like he would go ham going against an artifact deck because his power would be equal to however many artifacts your opponent has, and it's dealing 1 damage to a player that's activating an ability of an artifact. So it's rewarding that creature and punishing your opponent if they have a heavy artifact deck. Kate Sith Future Teller. It's a 3/3 legendary artifact creature, a cat mogul, lucky or for 3 in a mountain. Lucky slots. At the beginning of combat on your turn, scry 1, then exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. When you exile a card this way, target creature you control gets +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is that card's mana value. So, I mean, I don't know how I feel about exiling my own stuff, but at the same time, buffing a guy and, um, maybe depending on when you go into combat versus when you play the card from exile, you could maybe get your cake and eat it too. Summon Kujata. It's an enchantment creature, a Saga Ox. It's a 7/5 for 5 and a mound. As this saga enters and after you draw your draw step, add a war counter. Sacrifice after 3. So the first one is lightning. This creature deals 3 damage to each of up to 2 target creatures. The second stage is ice. Up to 3 target creatures can't block this turn. Uh, Section 3 is fire. Discard a card, then draw 2 cards. When you discard a card this way, this creature deals damage equal to that card's mana value to each opponent. Like I said, the creature's power and toughness is 7/5. Trample haste, so it can attack the turn it comes in. And where it has trample, 7 damage plus trample is a pretty good combo. So, if your opponents have smaller stuff, they block to maybe not receive as much damage, and you still deal some damage to your opponents. Uh, I kind of find it interesting how they're doing the sagas that are also creatures, so um, you're really not um, missing a creature drop to play a saga that'll kind of be like an in between where it's, an instant in the sense that it does different things on different turns, but it's a permanent at the same time. So, um, but like the sagas used to be like just an enchantment, not a creature. So you drop a saga, it does a different thing for 3 turns, and then if that's all the mana you had, you didn't get to play a creature. So if you're dropping this instead of a creature, your opponent plays a creature and they're a creature ahead potentially. But now the sagas are, kind of a combo card, not really in the sense that you're playing it out to do a combo, but more in the sense that it's 2 cards in one. It's a saga that is also a creature, so you have it doing multiple things for 3 turns, but you're also able to have a creature to attack and block with, which seems pretty cool. You're getting more value for the mana given this one costs 6, so yes, it's getting its value for the mana, it just costs more to play out, so some of them are gonna take longer. Ultimate Magic Meteor. It's a sorcery for 5 and a mountain. Ultimate Magic Meteor deals 7 damage to each creature. If the spell is cast from exile for each opponent, choose an artifact or land that player controls. Destroy the chosen permanents. The foretell cost is 5 and a ounce, so it's the same as the normal cost, but the reminding their text is during your turn you may pay 2 and exile this card from your hand face down. Cast it on a later turn for its foretell cost. So, um, it's basically costing the 2 additional to exile it and play it later, but then you're also getting a bonus for doing it later because it says if it was cast from exile, each opponent chooses an artifact or land, and you're destroying, um, one of the chosen permanents. So, you get something extra for, paying 2 and extra and waiting a turn to do that. Vincent Vengeful Atoner. It's a 3/3 legendary creature, an assassin for 2 and a mountain, has menace. Whenever one or more creatures you control deals combat damage to a player, put a 1/1 counter on Vincent. Chaos. Whenever Vincent deals combat damage to an opponent, it deals that much damage to each other opponent if Vincent's power is 7 or greater. So, I mean, obviously, base power is 3/3, so you'd have to, with Vincent's ability of getting 1/1 counters if you're dealing damage to players, you'd have to deal damage to players 4 times to get his power up to 7. Um, so if you're just in a 1 versus 1 commander game, it's not going to matter. But if you're in a pod of 4, you deal 7 damage with him, and then, oh hey, because my power is 7, I'm gonna do 7 damage to this opponent I'm attacking, but also 7 damage to the other 2 opponents. Like, that seems pretty good. It seems like this deck has a lot of stuff that's, um, based on the power of your creatures. Um, if you're attacking, you get a benefit for doing stuff like by, in this case, dealing damage to other opponents, um, or maybe, you know, getting an other attack phase. Just little things that if you're playing in a, with 3 or more people, you just get more benefit out of doing some stuff. Yuffie Materia Hunter. It's a 3/3 legendary creature, a human ninja for 2 and a mountain. Ninjutsu, 1 and a mountain. The reminder text says 1 and a mountain. Return an unblocked attacker you control to hand. Put this card onto the battlefield from your hand, tapped and attacking. So the ninjutsu cost is 1 less, and you basically have to do it during combat because you're returning an unblocked attacker to your hand to put this on the battlefield tapped and attacking. When Yuffie enters, gain control of target non-creature artifact for as long as you control Yuffie. Then you may attach an equipment you control to Yuffie. Bugenhagen Wise Elder. It's a 1/3 legendary creature, a human shaman for 1 in a forest. It has reach at the beginning of your upkeep. If you control a creature with power 7 or greater, draw a card. Tap to add 1 mana of any color. So, I mean, it's a mana dork that also, um, does something, but it also has reach, so you could potentially use it to block a flyer, given the defense is only 3, so you're not blocking anything crazy, but, early on it gives you that versatility of either being the mana dork or blocking the small flyer to, you know, prevent some damage early on. Life Stream's Blessing. It's a instant for 4 and 2 forests. Draw X cards where X is the greatest power among creatures you control as you cast the spell. If this spell was cast from exile, you gain twice X life. And the Foretell card cost is 4 in a forest, so the Foretell cost is actually 1 forest less than the initial casting cost, but obviously the reminder text is reminding us during your turn you may pay 2 and exile this card from your hand face down, cast it on a later turn for the foretell cost. So you're paying 1 less forest but 2 more generic to um, you know, cast it on a later turn and you gain twice X life, which, you know, not only are you drawing cards then, but you're also getting life. That's pretty good. Professor Hojo. It's a 2/2 legendary creature, a human scientist for 1 in a forest. The first activated ability you activate during your turn that targets a creature you control costs 2 less to activate. Whenever one or more creatures you control becomes the target of an activated ability, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. So, you know, where, um, you know, the first activated ability costs 2 less to activate, that's pretty good. And then if you're um, targeting, you know, one or more creatures with activated abilities, you're drawing a card, given it limits it to the first trigger you turn, but still reducing cost, and then getting a card draw is pretty good. Summoning Materia. It's a artifact equipment for 2 in a forest. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. As long as this equipment is attached to a creature, you may cast creature spells from the top of your library. Equipped creature has, or sorry, equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has vigilance and has tap at a forest. And the equip cost is 2. So, I mean, your the equipped creature gives your creature +2/+2 and vigilance and turns it into a mana dork. And I mean, regardless of whether this is attached or not, you get to look at the top card of your library at any time. And if this is equipped, you can play creatures from the top of your deck. That, I mean, what's not to like about that? You know, yes, you have to have the mana to be able to play the creature from the top of your library, but you know, that's pretty nice. Aerith Last Ancient. It's a 3/5 legendary creature, a human cleric druid for 2, a forest, and a plains. Has lifelink. Raise. At the beginning of your end step, if you gained life this turn, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. If you gain 7 or more life this turn, return that card to the battlefield instead. So, I mean, it's a 3/5 with lifelink. That's also enough as is, but the ability to either return a creature to your hand, from your graveyard to your hand, or graveyard to the battlefield, depending on how much life you gained. I mean, that seems like a lot of value for the mana cost. Given if your opponents know that, that seems like one of the creatures that's potentially getting countered or removed pretty quickly. Barret Avalanche Leader, the 4/4 legendary creature, a human rebel for 2 of mountain in a forest, has reach. Avalanche. When equipment you control enters, create a 2/2 red rebel creature token. At the beginning of combat on your turn, attach up to 1 target equipment you control to target rebel you control. So, I mean, you're basically getting a token for playing an equipment and then getting to um, equip something to a rebel once a turn at the beginning of your combat. Red 13, Proud Warrior, um, kind of reminds me of Clifford, but obviously it's from Final Fantasy. The 3/3 legendary creature, a beast warrior for 1, a mountain and a forest, has vigilance and trample. Other modified creatures you control have vigilance and trample. The reminder text says equipment, auras you control, and counters are modifications. So where this is equipment deck, but it also has stuff that makes 1/1 counters. Basically, a lot of your stuff is going to become a modified creature and get vigilance and trample if this guy is out on the battlefield. Cosmo Memory, when Red 13 enters, return target aura or equipment card from your graveyard to your hand. So not only does it care about giving other modified creatures vigilance and trample, it also says, hey, I'm playing this guy, I get one of those auras or equipments back from my graveyard to my hand to then make something else modified if it's not. Sephiroth Fallen Hero. It's a 7/5 legendary creature, a human avatar soldier for 3, a mountain, and plains. FEMA calls. Whenever Sephiroth attacks, you may put a call counter on target creature. Until end of turn, each modified creature you control has base power and toughness 7/5. The reminder text says the reminder text says equipments, auras you control, and counters are modifications. The Reunion. Pay 3, sacrifice a modified creature. Return this card from the graveyard to the battlefield tapped. I mean, I don't always like sacrificing stuff, but 3 mana and sacrificing a creature to get this guy back seems okay, especially if you're, say, sacrificing, a token where there's a couple of things that make 1/1 soldier tokens and one guy that makes a 2/2 rebel token. Conformer Shuriken. It's a legendary artifact equipment for 2. Equipped creature has, whenever this creature attacks, tap target creature defending player controls. If that creature has greater power than this creature, put a 1/1 counter on this creature equal to the difference, equip cost of 2. So that's actually pretty good because you're um, tapping a stronger creature of your opponent's so they don't block and kill your guy, and then, oh, your guy is bigger. I'm gonna get 1/1s to make up the difference, and my guy's getting bigger. Um, so I'm gonna come back to this in a later video, but hopefully you found some value in this. This was the Limit Break red, green, white commander deck from Final Fantasy. Thanks and have a good day.